Om Apyayantu Mamangani Vak Prana Chakshushrotram Atho Balamindriyani Cha Sarvani Sarvam Brahma Upanishadam Maham Brahma Nirakuryang Ma Brahma Nirakarod Anirakaranam Atstva Nirakaranam Mestu Tadatmani Nirateya Upanishatsu Dharmas ते मयि सन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. May my limbs, speech, vital force, eyes, ears, as also strength and all the organs become well developed. Everything is the Brahman revealed in the Upanishads. May I not deny Brahman. May not Brahman deny me. Let there be no spurning of me by Brahman. Let there be no rejection of Brahman by me. May all the virtues that are spoken of in the Upanishads repose in me, who am engaged in the pursuit of the self. May they repose in me. Om, peace, peace, peace. We have started the second chapter of the Kena Upanishad, and the first mantra was Yadi manyase suvedeti daharam evapi nunam tvam vetha brahmano rupam yadasya deveshvatanu mimangsyam te manye veditam. What does that mean? It's a question asked by the teacher. The teacher says, if you think I have known Brahman well enough, then you have known only the very little expression that it has in the human body and the little expression that it has among the gods. Therefore, Brahman is still, you should deliberate upon Brahman. And then the disciple replies, I think Brahman is known, or I have realized Brahman. So this is the first mantra of the chapter, second chapter. What's going on here? We have introduced it last time. The teaching has been completed in the first chapter. And after the teaching is now over, the teacher now gives a test, asks a question to verify whether the student has understood it properly or not. We saw last time Shankaracharya gave a longish introduction to it. I drew upon Shankaracharya's commentary and introduced the mantra. The gist being that if you think you have known Brahman well enough as an object, just as we know things by seeing them, hearing or smelling or tasting or touching them, or by intellectually understanding something, or by visualizing them, or through a scientific process, in any of these processes, if you think you have known Brahman as an object of some sort, then you know very little. Even if you've had mystical experiences, that's an important one. Through many spiritual practices, I have had extraordinary mystical experiences. So now I have known Brahman. I'm enlightened. So even if you have them, you have known very little of Brahman. What I taught, what the teacher taught, this knowledge of the self, knowledge of Brahman, that has not yet been really realized by you. You know, you have found something. If it's a genuine mystical experience, if it's genuine knowledge, certainly you have found something. But that is, the word he uses is daharam, very little, a limited. You have a limited appreciation or understanding of Brahman, or realization of Brahman. And therefore, mimamsyam evate, you must inquire further. You must, very interesting. It doesn't say you must pray more or fast more or give more in charity and donations or, no, not like that. You must inquire more on what has been taught. Something has been taught to you, stay with it. Listen to it again, think about it, meditate upon it. Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Mimamsa means pujita vichara, a reverential inquiry. A teaching has been transmitted to you, reverentially inquire into it until it becomes a living reality for you. And the student does that and comes back and again says, I think I have realized Brahman. Manya, I think. Viditam, it has been realized, it has been known. And naturally, the teacher will, of course, what do you mean? I just said, that Brahman cannot be known the way we know things. But you're saying, you are walking straight into the trap. You're saying it is known. I have realized it. What the student will say will be an amazing verse which will come next, verse number 2. But before that, we must go deep into this question itself. Shankaracharya writes an extensive commentary on the question, very important. What is the role of this question? How it refines and corrects our Vedantic knowledge. What Shankaracharya has said about this verse, about this mantra, that will be the basis of today's class. Remember, the problem with this, the problem which leads to this question, the problem is you're supposed to become enlightened after the teaching. Enlightenment means what I did not know earlier, now I know. And if the student says, I know it, that's obviously wrong, because we have already taught the teaching was it is other than the known, it is other than the unknown. So if you say, I know it, then you're wrong. You don't know it. And if you say, I don't know it, well, then the teaching has failed. You're supposed to know it, supposed to become enlightened. So either way, the student will be trapped. But the student walks out of it wonderfully because he's a first-class student and enlightened. We will see how the student deals with this. But first, what does this question mean? Why this question and what does this question mean? I'm using Shankaracharya's commentary. Now, Shankaracharya says that why this question? Well, there may be students who have all the qualifications. Remember the fourfold qualifications of a qualified Vedantic inquirer. May have a purified mind and a focused mind, and with a pure and focused mind, deliberates upon the teachings given to the student by the teacher and realizes. There always are such people. Very few, very rare, but there can be such people. So, and they become enlightened. Or there might be somebody who does not. Many students do not. Upon the first hearing or the second hearing or the third hearing, they do not. And therefore, the hesitation in the teacher, the concern and the care that the teacher has about whether the teaching has been assimilated, that is justified. Now, that's what Shankaracharya says. Kadachit yathashrutam durvigyayam api. I'm quoting from Shankaracharya's commentary. Kadachit yathashrutam durvigyayam api kshina doshaha sumedhaha kaschit pratipadyate kaschit naiti sashankamaha yadi ityadi. So Shankaracharya says sometimes there may be a student who is kshina dosha, who has, literally it means has washed away or cleared or attenuated the one's faults, moral faults, impurities of the mind. Those have been washed away. It leads a pure, highly moral life. Sumedhaha, the intellect is purified. So Swami Bhuteshananda ji used to say that Shukha buddhi nai, Shuddha buddhi. Not a subtle intellect, but a pure intellect, what we want. Because there are people who are very intelligent, but you will find many of them, many of them, when they hear Vedanta or anything about spirituality, they think it's dumb. They are not convinced about it at all. There are many. So they have subtle intellect, sharp intellect, but it's not a pure intellect. I've often seen people who have a sharp intellect reject anything to do with spiritual, not just Vedanta, any kind of spirituality. They reject it, but such people will always have a common characteristics. They grasp onto this world strongly. They have a deep streak of materialism in them. In some way, in some of them, in a good way, they might be good people wanting to do good in the world, but this is all they know, this word. And somehow anything beyond this, anything higher, anything spiritual does not pull them. Or many of them are out and out materialistic. This world is the source of my enjoyment, is a source of my pleasure, and therefore this is all I want. They won't say it openly, but it's there deep inside. And that accounts for their resistance to spirituality. So, Sumer Haha, it literally means a purified intellect. a spiritual intellect. Kaschit pratipadyate. So there might be such a rare one who becomes enlightened. Pratipadyate grasps the teaching. It's quite possible. And there always are such people. Some rare, very few, but there are some such people. Kaschit naiti. Some are there, many are there, in fact, who don't get it. And therefore, sashankam. Shanka means doubt. Asking with doubt. The teacher is quite justified in his concern, in his hesitation, in his care of the student in asking this question. What is the teaching? Yathashrutam durvigyam api. The enlightened one, as has been heard, even though the object of the teaching, self-knowledge, is very subtle and very, very difficult to grasp immediately. Even then, such a person, there are people who get it. And there are people who don't get it. So very interesting. Yathashrutam, as has been heard. That means as has been taught. It's very important to focus on the teaching because it's so subtle. What is being taught is so subtle. One must, and our only rope, the only support we have got to becoming enlightened is the transmission of the teaching itself. So it is very important to focus again and again, come back to what we are hearing and connect it to life, because it is about me, and the claim is it's a fact right now. With full conviction on the teaching, on the teacher, it must be right. I'm not getting it. I am surely this Atman, limitless awareness, existence, bliss. But let me see how. And how? Using what the teaching is. So some get it, some don't get it, and therefore the teacher is justified in asking. Then Shankaracharya tells a story. One of those rare occasions. So he refers back to the 8th chapter of the Chandogya Upanishad. What happened in the 8th chapter of the Chandogya Upanishad? The king of the gods, Indra, and the king of the demons, Virochana, both of them decided, we want to know what is this Brahman it's spoken about, and we want to become enlightened. So who's the best teacher? After all, we are not ordinary students. We are, kings, and not ordinary kings also. We're king of the gods, king of the demons. So let us find the best possible teacher in the universe. Who is that? Brahma, the creator of the universe. We'll go to Brahma, not Brahman, Brahma, the creator of the universe, who is the common father of all of us, who has created us. We will go to him and ask him, what is the self? As we have heard, self-knowledge is the greatest of all things. It leads to enlightenment and freedom, moksha. So we will ask. And they do that. This is the story in the Chandogya Upanishad, 8th chapter. And Brahma teaches them, but he teaches them in stages. Now, what happens is, when he first teaches them about the self, basically the teaching is, here is this waking life and this body. You, the consciousness, the self, is available here as you, the consciousness, functioning through this body and mind and experiencing this universe. So the witness consciousness here, in the body mind, experiencing this universe, that witness consciousness is Brahman. And in our dream life, there's a dream world and a person in the dream itself, and you forget that you're sleeping. Well, that consciousness which acts in and through the person in the dream, experiencing a dream world, that witness consciousness is Brahman. And in deep sleep, the third part of the teaching was in deep sleep, when everything disappears and merged in a uniform blankness, that blankness is also presented to consciousness, to the witness consciousness. It's an experience of absence. So that witness consciousness is Brahman. And finally, it was taught by itself, Brahman, that pure consciousness, is not a waker, not a dreamer, not a deep sleeper. It is the one limitless consciousness, without name, without form, without any reference to waking, dreaming, deep sleep. By itself, it is just being, it is just awareness. And that's how the teaching was given. If this reminds you of the Mandukya Upanishad, you're right. It's the same teaching. Our ordinary understanding is, I am the waker, and this is my waking world. I am the Vishwa, and this is called the world, the Jagrat, the waking world. And Brahma teaches, yes, there itself, Brahman is available as the witness consciousness. which appears as the Vishwa, the waker, and the waking experience. In dream also, Brahman is available. And what's our ordinary understanding of dream? I am this person experiencing a dream world. When we wake up, we think that. Well, there itself, Brahman is available as the pure consciousness, which is experiencing the dream and the dream world also. And similarly in the deep sleep. But by itself, it is just existence awareness bliss. And I've explained this earlier also with the example of the gold and the ornaments. The gold is available in the necklace. And the same gold is available when the necklace is melted and made into, say, a bracelet. And the same gold is again available when the same gold is melted and made into a ring. But by itself, it's not a necklace or a bracelet or a ring. It's gold. But it's available in all three ornaments. So this is the basically teaching. But the interesting thing is, when the Prajapati, the Brahma taught the demon king and the king of the gods, the demon king Virochana, when he was taught, here in this body is this one consciousness, this is the witness consciousness, this is Brahman. He thought, all right, so this body is the self. And he said, thank you, I've understood, I've become enlightened now. And he went back to his kingdom of, went back to hell, to his kingdom of hell, and he taught everybody that the body is the self, and that's it. And that's how they have been continuing till now. Lots of us also are continuing in the same way. It's a very popular teaching. Who am I? I'm this, that's all. What else is there to know? Completely wrong understanding. He mentioned it's consciousness, it's witness consciousness, it's immortal. Body is mortal. This is not what was taught. It does not stand to reason also. But this is what he understood. And so there are students who will misunderstand completely. Now, there are students who will not understand adequately, will not understand, they will say, I got some of it, but it's vague. I have some confusions, and it goes away when I'm not in the class, things like that. Maybe hear again and again. So the king of the gods was like this, Indra. He also misunderstood, but not like Virochana. He didn't say, the body is the self. He thought, all right, so I am the self in this body, but is that the final teaching of Vedanta? It can't be. The body is mortal, and the body is not consciousness. The self is aware. All these arguments came to him, and he came back to Brahma again. And he said, teach me again. Brahma kept taught in each installment of teaching. Brahma would say, go back and do karma yoga. Go and do service. Lead an austere life, an ethical life, a life of service, life of meditation, then come back and ask. And so this, and long periods, 32 years. First teaching, then next installment after 32 years. 32 years of a hard life, come back again. So the next time, the second time Brahma taught, Virochana was gone. The king of demons was gone. Only Indra was left. Again Brahma taught. Again Indra didn't get it. Still had some more doubts. Again he was told to go back. 32 more years of a hard life of service, moral life, upright life, struggle. And do your spiritual exercises, come back again. Second time he didn't get it. Third time he didn't get it. Finally, the fourth time, Indra came back again with the question. And Brahma gave the final teaching, and Indra was enlightened. He realized, I am the limitless existence consciousness. It became a living realization for him. He became enlightened. That story, Shankaracharya tells here, to show that there are different kinds of students, and therefore the teacher's question is justified. He's not just checking if the person is enlightened. He's helping those. If someone is enlightened, good, let's verify. Second, if you're not enlightened, it's a help, it's a correction. If I have some confusion, if I mistakenly think I'm enlightened, so that question will help me correct my course. That's what is being done. Shankaracharya also makes an important comment about Indra in the Chandogya Upanishad. He says, Chaturthe Parjaya, in the fourth installment of the teaching, Pratama Uktameva Brahma Pratipannavan. He says, that which was taught in the first installment, what the Brahma taught in the first place, that itself led to enlightenment. Because of that teaching, which was given, it's not that the fourth teaching was the final touch, the, what is it, cherry on the cake? Is that the phrase? So it is not like that. The first teaching itself was complete, just that the student didn't get it, was not ready at that time. And therefore, Shankaracharya makes this observation that it's important to know the teaching given in the Upanishads, in the Gita, in other texts, subsequent texts, they're all complete. The first time you hear it also, you have heard it right. But its complete teaching has been given. It's only after we become enlightened and we look back upon all these teachings that they all fall in place and make sense. And you say, of course, of course. So he says, Prathama Uktameva, what was taught in the first installment, that itself led to enlightenment. But that happened on icing on the cake, yes. That itself led to enlightenment. The first installment of teaching itself, and which was equal to the second installment, equal to the third installment, and the final one also. And then he says, Shankaracharya says, any classroom, go to any classroom, not just Vedanta, anything that's being studied, you will get these kinds of students. Some who get it when it's being taught, some who get it partially, some who understand completely opposite, like the king of demons who said, the body is the self. Just exactly the other than, the first teaching in Vedanta is you are not the body, not the mind. Huh? And he thought, I am the body. That's what you're saying. I heard you. No, you're not the body. I heard you. You're saying I'm the body. So some people understand just the opposite. And some people don't understand anything. What are you talking about? Blank look. I don't get it. What are you guys going on and on about? And that's true of any classroom. Shankaracharya says, I'm quoting him again, Loke api, in the world, in worldly cases, in the cases of secular knowledge, ekasmat guroho, from the same guru, shrunvatam, hearing from the same guru, the same teaching, same class, the same notes, the same handouts, kaschid yathavat pratipadyate, someone understands, grasps it as it has been taught correctly. Kaschid ayathavat, somebody does not grasp it correctly, grasps it, it's not entirely wrong, but it's not yet quite clear. Kaschid viparitam, somebody gets just the opposite understanding, contrary understanding. Kaschid na pratipadyate, somebody doesn't get anything at all. Yeah. So all of these are possible. Kimu vaktavyam, what is so astonishing if that happens in Vedanta? Kimu vaktavyam atindriyam atmatattvam, what to speak of the teaching about the self, the reality of the self, which is atindriyam, beyond the senses, beyond speech, beyond mind. There, the possibility of misunderstanding, partial understanding, contrary understanding, no understanding, these are all very much possible. Nothing to be worried about. The teacher will help you. Part of the helping is this question. We'll see how. Then he says, it's not just ordinary people, philosophers. Atrahi vipratipanna sadasadvadina tarkika sarve. On this question of the self, what is the self? Who am I? What am I? It is the place of debate, great debate for logicians and philosophers, tarkikaha. Specifically, it refers to the Nyaya logicians, but in general, philosophers and debaters from ancient times onwards who have been debating. And he gives an example, sadasadvadinaha. Sadvadi means those who, one meaning might be those who say the self exists. Asadvadi means those who say there's no such thing as the self. This might be one meaning. So then who is he talking about? All the Hindu schools in general, they say that yes, there is an Atma, there is a self. And the Buddhist schools in general, they say that there is no such self. It's an illusion. Because of the activities of the body-mind, you feel that there is some central self. It's an illusion generated by the continuous stream of thoughts, feelings, emotions. The Buddhists will say Panchaskandha, 5 pillars. So these are the constituents, basically body-mind. And because of them, we have an illusion of there is some self here. But there isn't. There isn't. So they are asadvadins. They say there is no self. And there are the Hindu, the Nyaya school, the Vaisheshika school, Sankhya school. They all say there is a self. And they have great debates. And these are not unintelligent people. They are extremely sharp scholars, spiritual seekers, philosophers down the ages. This was one of the main areas of contention between the Hindu schools and the Buddhist schools for a period of about nearly 1000 years, right after the Buddha till the gradual fading away of Buddhism from India. So many great philosophers, many great spiritual seekers, monks or pandits, all of them engaged in this debate, and a vast literature of debate was produced. So it's a question, it's an open question. And what Shankaracharya wants to say here is, the teachings of the Upanishads are there, but they are open to multiple interpretation or refutation. And that's why you have so many schools. So this is one meaning. The Hindu and the Buddhist schools, Sadvadi, Asadvadi. The Atman exists or the Atman does not exist. And there are many schools in this. Or it might refer to only the Hindu schools. Why? Because we're talking about the teaching of the Upanishads. The Buddhists would not be interested in the teachings of the Upanishads. The Orthodox Hindu schools are interested in the teaching of the Upanishads. The same teaching of the Upanishads is given, but the different schools of Hindu philosophy come to different conclusions. So the Nyaya school, Vaisheshika school, Sankhya school, Yoga school, Purva Mimamsa, Advaita, and Vedanta. In Vedanta also multiple schools. So what does Sadasadvadi mean here among the Hindus? Satkaryavada, Asatkaryavada. Two meanings, the two theories of causality. And there are these two streams of causality in Hindu schools. Just briefly, because this is taking us away from our main field, main area. What would these two mean? These two types of schools, Satkaryavada and Asatkaryavada. Those who believe in the theory of causality called Satkaryavada, they believe in the pre-existence of the effect in the cause. So, for example, when a seed develops as a plant, the Satkaryavada, those who believe in the pre-existence of the effect in the cause, they believe that the plant, the seedling, the tree, actually pre-exists in the seed. And now today we know it is true actually, that all the information which goes to generating that plant, that tree, that we now know in detail, the genetic information actually exists within the seed. It's a manifestation of a pre-existing potential in the seed, which manifests as the plant. In contrast, the Asatkaryavadin will say, no, 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 no. The effect does not pre-exist. The effect is entirely new. The cause disappears, is destroyed, and now the effect arises. So the effect does not exist in the cause. It's a new thing. And they're also right in one sense, because unless the effect is in some sense new and distinct from the cause, then what is produced? If the effect is already existing in the cause, then when the cause becomes the effect, what new thing is produced then? Why will you say there is an effect? Why will you say there is a cause and an effect? If just the cause is appearing in another form in that case. And these are all debates. The Satkaryavadins are the Sankhya and Yoga school. Among Vedanta, the Vishishtadvaita, Dvaita schools, they all believe in Satkaryavada. And we also, non-dualists, in a special form of Satkaryavada called Vivartavada. We are not going to go into the details. Whereas the Nyaya Vaisheshika school believes in Asatkaryavada. Anyway, all of this is just like a footnote, but all of this is just to say that Vipratipanna, great controversy and debate is there, even after you receive the Vedantic, the Upanishadic teaching. So we will always ask, so what? So the question is justified. This question is justified. Do you know or have you understood what has been taught? Daharam me papi. The word has been used. Daharam means, the word Sanskrit word daharam means small, limited. So if you feel you have realized, then your realization is limited indeed, is inferior, is smaller, is limited. You have realized Brahman, but it's a inferior aspect, a smaller aspect, a limited aspect of Brahman. You have not really realized what was taught in the, what I taught, what the Upanishad taught. You're not a Brahmagyani or Atmagyani. You're not enlightened. Now, a question is raised. Just a minute. you said Brahman is pure consciousness, or Satchidananda. Now, are you saying Brahman has many forms? Some higher, some lower, some limited, some inferior, some superior. Are you saying that? What is it's something strange. Are you saying, yes, you have realized Brahman, but you have realized a limited Brahman, inferior Brahman. So some aspect of Brahman. What do you mean? Does Brahman have aspects, inferiority and superiority, limited, unlimited? What are you talking about? So the question, Shankaracharya raises this question. Kim anekani brahmana rupani? Are there many forms of Brahman? Many aspects of Brahman? Mahanti adbhakani cha. Higher and lower, inferior and superior. Yena aha daharam eva ityadi. Because of which the teacher is asking this question in a strange way. You have realized, if you think you have realized, you have already experienced Brahman. Well, you have experienced a lower or inferior form of Brahman. Then what do you mean inferior form of Brahman? A clarification of the question. Please clarify. Then the answer. So this discussion is very, I'd say, a very interesting, sort of scintillating discussion. For those who are interested in Vedanta and self-knowledge in Brahman, it approaches it to various forms. And next you'll see it will take a deep dive and quite shocking also. But right now he says, are there many forms? Shankaracharya bites the bullet straight away. He says, of course. Bardam. Bardam means surely. Of course there are many forms. The whole world is Brahman. Why only forms of Brahman? Don't have to go to make it very mystical or philosophical. Your table and chair are forms of Brahman. Your sky and earth are forms of Brahman. You, the student, and I, the teacher, are forms of. Why do you think there aren't forms of Brahman? Of course there are. Bardam. Anekani hi nama rupa upadikritani brahmano rupani nasvataha. There are many, many, many forms of Brahman. But all of those forms are because of the presence of names and forms. The word again here, again and again it will be used, upadhi. Upadhi. I mentioned it earlier, but quick clarification, what does the word upadhi mean? Technically, first of all, and then I'll explain in simple terms. Upadhi means upa samipe sthitva suyan gunan adhatte upadhi. What does that mean? Something approaching in proximity and appearing to transfer its qualities to another thing. Something which comes in proximity and appears to transfer its qualities to another thing. For example, a crystal, this will serve. This is a paperweight, but it's transparent more or less. It will serve. So you can see it's colorless. But now take a look. Does it begin to seem orange? Right? Does it seem orange? Now it's colorless. But now does it seem orange? Yes. Now, does it seem red or brown? It does. What's happening here? The cloth coming near the colorless, transparent piece of glass or crystal, the cloth appears to transfer its orange color to the glass. Appears to transfer. We know the glass is still colorless, but it looks orange. Why does it look orange? The qualities, the orange is in the cloth, and that appears to be transferred to the glass. The glass looks orange. The brown color is in the sweater, but it appears to be transferred to the glass. The glass looks brown or dark or brown now. But the glass is colorless, and when it looks orange, it's still colorless. When it looks brown or red, it's still colorless. So the cloth is called an upadhi. The sweater is called an upadhi. I'm sort of improvising the example. The classical Sanskrit example is sphatika, a crystal, which is colorless crystal, and a red flower, rakta japa. The red flower is brought near the crystal, and the crystal looks red from the other side. Yellow flower, you bring it in, the crystal looks yellow. White flower, you bring it in, the crystal looks white. But by itself, it's colorless. Now the colors are in the flowers, and they appear to be transferred. Not that the crystal becomes even a little bit red or a little bit white. Not at all. Even when it looks red or yellow, it is still completely colorless. Similarly, this is the example. Now, this example of upadhi, this concept of upadhi is used in Vedanta. Pure consciousness, because of the power of Maya, generates a body, mind, and senses. And now pure consciousness seems to be mental or sensory or physical. The qualities of the body seem to be transferred to pure consciousness. I feel right now, I feel I am tall, or I am skinny, or I am overweight. But tall, skinny, overweight are qualities of the body. They appear to be transferred to you, the consciousness. So body is an upadhi. The mind, I feel happy, or I feel bored, I feel depressed, or I feel excited, I feel calm, happy, sad, bored, excited, depressed. These are qualities. Where are they? In the mind. But they appear to be transferred to you, the consciousness. And you feel, we feel happy. We feel, I am happy. I am excited. I am bored. No, you are not. These are just like the yellow color in the glass, or orange color in the glass, or brown color in the glass. In consciousness, the qualities of the mind appear there. Similarly, the same Brahman, same Atman, with the name and form of a mountain will appear like a mountain to you. With the name and form of the sky will appear like sky to you. With the name and form of a human being will appear like a human being to you. The name and form of a body and senses and mind will appear like body, senses, and mind to you. All those qualities are transferred, and not only the consciousness identifies with that, appears to be that body, mind, and takes on its own qualities, both. In fact, if it's a plain clear glass and a flower appears, the glass will seem to disappear into the, it will not seem, it will look like a flower. Not only the glass will seem yellow, the glass itself will become seemingly invisible, and you will see only a flower there. What is actually a glass? Similarly, consciousness sort of recedes to the background. And what do I see myself as? Body, thoughts, feelings, emotions. So as many names and forms are there, as many creatures are there, so many types of Brahman appears in so many forms. Gold, the ornament. Gold is only one thing. Are there many forms of gold? Of course there are. As many ornaments you make, so many forms of gold. Gold may appear to be round, and you can call it a bracelet. Gold may appear to be like this, and you can call it a necklace and wear it. Gold may appear to be a ring, and you can wear it they are all forms of gold. They are all names of gold. They are all uses of gold. So, but then Shankaracharya says, na swataha, not by itself. Just as the glass is not yellow by itself, only in the presence of the cloth, of the orange by itself, only in presence of cloth. Just as gold is not round, only in the upadhi of bracelet. Similarly, Brahman, Atman, pure consciousness, does not have any higher or lower forms, inferior or superior forms, only with the help of the upadhis. Same Atman can appear as God, as a devata, can appear as an animal or as a human being. So it's not that, and the forms are superior or inferior. So, but the consciousness itself has not become superior or inferior. Gold itself has not become superior or inferior depending on the kind of ornament you are, upadhi of the ornament, name and form. Depending on names and forms, you can say there are superior forms of Brahman and inferior forms of Brahman, superior experiences of Brahman, inferior experiences of Brahman, varieties of experiences of Brahman, but not by itself, not by itself, not in itself. Just as the gold in itself is neither round, nor is it like a necklace, neither is the gold called a bracelet, nor is gold by itself called a necklace without the names and forms. Similarly, as far as Brahman itself is concerned, there are no varieties. Then one might ask, where do these upadhis arise from if Brahman alone exists? The real answer is they don't arise. Remember, to be an Advaitin, you have to be a little ruthless. Do the upadhis actually arise by themselves? Is a separate thing called upadhis have arisen? No, arisen. No. They're almost exactly like the names and forms of the ornaments. Are the names and forms of ornaments anything apart from the gold? So the gold appears as a bracelet. Now the bracelet has this shape. Now you might say, is that shape something else extra which has been added to the bracelet? It seems like that, added to the gold. No, it is not, because it cannot exist without the gold. It's not another thing, not gold plus another entity, another existent entity, no. Well, at least you're calling it a new name, bracelet. Yes, but the name, what does the name refer to? It finally refers to that same gold, which you change the shape, make it a necklace. Now a new name will refer to that same gold. Same gold you melt down and make it into a ring. Shape will be different, name will be different, but the item, the material is literally the same gold. Similarly, the names and forms, the upadhis, have no existence apart from Brahman. That's the extraordinary paradoxical thing. It's not that they don't exist, but they don't have any independent existence. They are not, let's put it this way, they are not as real as Brahman. That is what is called mithya, relative reality, secondary reality, dependent reality. Okay. Why? Why do they appear? The answer again, Vedanta will always fall back on Maya, because of the inexplicable nature of Maya. Same Brahman, Satchidananda, either appears as nothing at all, or when it does appear, in order to be experienced, name and form is absolutely necessary. There must be a subject and an object, and the object must have some objective characteristic. The characteristics is names and forms, varieties of names and forms. Okay, since the question has popped up, let me give you an interesting story. I heard this, and I read it also later on, in the Himalayas from Tapovan Maharaj's Sevak, Sundaranandaji. So he narrated how who's famous Swami Chinmayanandaji, how he came to Tapovan Maharaj and studied Vedanta there. So they would have 2 classes in a day, morning and afternoon. And students, only a handful of students. And only the students, Tapovan Maharaj was famous for being very strict. And he would teach only Vedanta, the Upanishads, Gita, the commentaries, and that's it. Brahma Sutras, and that's it. He would not give you mantra diksha. He would not give you the initiation into sannyas or anything, nothing like that. He just said, come and attend the classes and you'll be enlightened. But he was very strict and demanding. So for example, to be a student, you already have to be a monk. You can't, nobody else is accepted. And you have to live a very harsh and austere life. You find your own cave or hut, you beg for food and eat the food you get by begging, and you get these 2 classes in a day. That's all. So that's how Swami Chinmayanji was living and attending the classes. The story goes, one day he asked, I understand Vedanta, but these names and forms, these upadhis, you can call them Maya. What's the point of it all? What's the point of it all? Why? Why do they arise, and what purpose do they serve? If I am limitless existence, consciousness, bliss, that seems just perfect. That's it. But why does this appear at all? What good is it? I can understand if someone wants to be, I'm adding this, Chinmanji did not ask. If someone wants to live a worldly life and earn money and conquer a kingdom and enjoy and suffer and go through life's births and deaths, all of this has a purpose. But suppose you are just existence, consciousness, bliss. Why all this manifestation, seeing that it is the cause of so much travail and sorrow, and you have to learn Vedanta and to be free of it all? Why? Why is Maya necessary? Why are names and forms necessary? What good does it do, especially spiritually? Tapavanta Swami did not reply at that time. Few days later, in the class, he asked Chinmayananji that, get me some water to drink. I want some water to drink. Chinmayanji was a little surprised. So he's written about this account. It's available in his books, this story. Anyhow, he went down to the Ganga to get a pitcher of water. He got a pitcher of water and offered it to Tapovan Swami. And Tapovan Swami immediately, he was known for his harsh scoldings. He said, what have you done? What? You asked for water, here's water. But what have you got? Here's a pitcher of water. But I asked for water, why did you get a pitcher of water? And Chinmayanji says, I stood there thunderstruck. And Tapovan Swami said, precisely. You see, this, what to the enlightened person, what does this word convey? It conveys Brahman. Very soon we will see. The student who's enlightened, he will say this. Pratibodha viditam matan. In all the names and forms, I enjoy Brahman. That one same existence, consciousness, bliss, everywhere. How will you experience it without names and forms? You cannot. And the enlightened one, so this is the difference between spiritual enlightenment and worldliness, samsara and enlightenment. The same names and forms. If you forget Brahman, Brahman is always there. But if you forget Brahman, then the names and forms seem to take on an independent existence of their own. And we relate to them as a body-mind relating to this world. And we struggle with this world, enjoy and suffer, and go through a cycle of births and deaths, limited existences, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. But the moment we realize that we are Brahman, then it all becomes one reality, still appearing as many. And now these many, all these people and these circumstances and these things and the sky and the earth and all the actions and all the thoughts, every thought, every feeling, blazingly, unrestrained way, reveals Brahman, the one limitless light which you are. It's a great joy. Every bit of existence in this world, every speck of dust reveals Brahman. Everything is Brahman's form. Everything is revealing Brahman to you. So that is the use of the upadhi for the enlightened one. Once it's realized as upadhi, for us, it does not seem like a upadhi. Upadhi is something which comes nearby and appears to transfer its qualities unto you. Here, it does not seem like that. For us, it seems I am the body. It's not, I don't feel like the body is something that is appearing in me and appearing to transfer its qualities to me. Not like that at all. Only to the enlightened one, it looks like that. For us, it looks like I am the body. Now, getting back to the discussion. By itself, Brahman does not have forms. You are right. But certainly Brahman has any number of forms. And by itself, what happens? Swatastu. Now we want to know, all right, tell me, by itself, what's Brahman like? Shankaracharya says, Swatastu ashabdam asparsham arupam abhyayam tatharasam nityam agandhavachayat. Kena Upanishad. Not this, without form, without color, without shape, without smell, without taste, without touch, without sound, without activity. It's all neti, negative. Iti shabdadhivi saha rupani pratishidyate. All names and forms are negated. All upadhis and their qualities are negated. Negated in the sense, they are nothing but Brahman. We realize it's called mithyatva nishchaya. Even while the upadhis are appearing, the names and forms are appearing, we know they are appearances. They are not separate realities. So that is the negation of the upadhis, even while they appear. You don't have to make them disappear. If you make them disappear, all experience also will disappear. If you realize the upadhis are nothing but Brahman, then one unlimited Brahman exists. Okay. What is the teacher suggesting? One may have a direct experience of Brahman in some mystical way. A spiritual seeker who tries hard can have internal experiences. In yoga, many such experiences are mentioned. Light, an ethereal, heavenly sound of bells, extraordinary feelings in the body and surges of joy and bliss in the mind. So many wonderful experiences are there. Within yourself, yes, those are also valuable spiritual experiences. But teacher says, Dharam evapi yadasya tvam. Within yourself, in the body mind, you have realized Brahman in a very limited way. Not at all what we were trying to teach you. And sometimes outside, you have visions. You hear the voice of God, you see the form of God. God, if you worship God, you will see the appearance of, that's Brahman. And God in some form will appear. In those Vedic times, Indra, Varun, Chandra, something will appear to you. You can have those experiences. But that's also Brahman with a name and form. Anything that appears and disappears is not the ultimate realization. Anything that leaves you as the subject of the realization, and that's the object of my realization, is not the ultimate realization. So he says that's, if you have, so on one hand, he does not deny these are genuine spiritual experiences, valuable spiritual experiences, and good to be cherished. If you are a sadhaka, spiritual seeker, these will come to you. But don't think this, I have become enlightened or I have realized Brahman. One of our senior, I think it was Mahapurush Maharaj, he was asked by a monk that I have this wonderful vision of God, dream about God, very elevating. And his answer was a downer. Shivanandaji, he said, well, it's better than having nightmares. So it's a good dream. It's a holy dream. It's better than having nightmares. That's good. But that's the level at which we should treat it. It's a good thing, but it's not enlightenment. Because Brahman by itself, see, anything you know as I have realized Brahman as this, then you have realized something objective, a name and form you have seen, some kind of divine, heavenly, spiritual name and form. But it's not Brahman as such, because it cannot be objectified like that. It does not have a specific, particular name and form. Now comes a really deep question. I don't know if I should go into it now. Maybe next time. Let me deal with the questions here. I won't leave you in tension. The deep question is, the Purva Pakshi, the opponent, asks something which is very close to Vedanta, which is how many of us understand Vedanta. He gives arguments which I have given many times myself. And Shankaracharya there gives a much needed correction. Basically, the whole discussion, question and answer will be, the Purva Pakshi, the opponent will ask, wait a minute. Again and again, you guys, non-dualists, you keep saying Brahman is consciousness. It's consciousness, consciousness. And he'll give arguments, like the hard problem of consciousness, he'll give that. He says consciousness is one thing that cannot be explained by matter. He will say that. It cannot be explained by mind. It cannot be explained by senses. In those days, brain, they didn't know much about it. But it's basically what today we are calling the hard problem of consciousness. It's a statement of that. And he says, so therefore, consciousness is unique. And Upanishads also again and again say Brahman, Atman is consciousness. And therefore, Brahman is consciousness. Why make such a big deal about it? Why don't you say straight away that Brahman is consciousness? Chaitanyam, he says. It sounds very much like a Vedanta talk, but it's not, it's wrong. That's why this Upanishad is delightful. Shankaracharya says, you are right. It is consciousness. However, not the way you think it is. The Atman or the self is called consciousness, again with respect to the upadhi of the mind and the senses. If you remove the upadhis of the mind and the senses, then you can no longer technically call it consciousness. It's still there. What used to be called consciousness, it's still there. The Atman is there. That correction he applies. That throws light on many things. Why do we have difficulty in thinking consciousness is there in deep sleep? Precisely because of this. You can't call it consciousness the way we are used to understanding consciousness. It bridges the gap between what Vedantins call consciousness and what in modern consciousness studies in science, in medicine, psychology is called consciousness. This clarification will bridge the gap. So it's a very beautiful and a subtle deliberation. It's for advanced students, because the moment you say it's not consciousness, immediately our mind swings to the binary opposite. Oh, so it's not consciousness. No, it is, but something more than that. And why are we using the term consciousness? Because of its association with the upadhis of mind and the senses. Without that, you cannot even call it consciousness. It's literally beyond any language. What is the harm of calling it consciousness? Shankaracharya will explain there. The harm of calling it consciousness, did you not just hear? The Upanishad itself said, what cannot be expressed by speech, but that by which speech is experienced. Yad vachanabhyuditam yena vagabhyudyate. If you can express it as speech, it is consciousness. Atman is consciousness. Brahman is consciousness. And that's the final position. Well, you have expressed it as speech. Then how do you explain? Why does the Upanishad say it is beyond language? Why did it say language cannot express it? No, it cannot. The real nature of the Atman, the final truth, cannot be expressed even by calling it consciousness, even by calling it Sat, existence, or Ananda. Those also are approaches, very proximate, very close approaches. But Shankaracharya will take us step by step beyond that also. And then the teacher will say, so, dear student, you must think about it again, reason about it. And then Shankaracharya has a very beautiful section in which he says the student goes and reasons about it and then meditates upon it and comes back and says, again, I think I know Brahman, I've realized Brahman. And so it will set up another huge issue. What do you mean? Please explain. And that will be done in the next class. So that's I've already given you the summary. We'll just read out Shankara's commentary next time and then go in, because it's a very important corrective. Yes, don't worry, whatever you have heard, you'll say, so all the YouTube talks I heard till now, pure consciousness and all, is wrong. It's not wrong. This is just a corrective to it. This is just a refinement. Shankaracharya also will say it's not wrong to say it's consciousness. He says Satyam eva. But Satyam eva is what is called ardhangikara, a half-hearted acknowledgement. Because you see, while it is not wrong to say Brahman or Atman is consciousness, the guru, the skillful guru, knows what is in our minds. And we may say the right thing, but what we mean in our minds, the guru knows. And therefore the guru challenges that. That story about Wittgenstein. Every time anything, it says, sir, you said this, and Wittgenstein will say, no, I never said that. That's not what I said. So one of the students got exasperated, and he took down precise notes of what the professor had said in the class. And in the next class, he said, sir, last class you said this. And Wittgenstein, as usual, said, no, I did not say that. The student said, you said it. I've written it down exactly what you said. You said this. And then Wittgenstein said, very important, he said, but you don't mean by those words what I meant. Which is true. You have got the words right, but I can see that you don't get it, what I'm saying. So that's the corrective. This is an important corrective. Now let's look at the observations and comments. Where do those upadhis arise? Cordelia is asking, what is their origin? That is, I have answered that. It is Maya. Technically speaking, precisely speaking, they do not arise. They do not have an origin, but they appear to. It's like asking, where do the plants and animals I saw in my dream, what is their birth? Which zoo did I see them in, or which planet? There's no answer possible to that, because they were not born, they appeared. Similarly, the upadhis appear. Sangeeta asks, Pujya Swami Chinmayanji's guru being Shivananda Swami and then followed by Tapovan Maharaj. Correct. Shivanandaji was his guru, and the story goes, Chinmayanandaji asked him, when he understood more about Vedanta, where do I get very authentic traditional teachers who are enlightened people to teach Vedanta? And it seems, if I remember correctly, Swami Shivanandaji said to him that I can think of 3 in the Himalayas right now, in those days, I think 1950s or 60s, who are of that standard or level, and only one of them teaches in Hindi, the other 2 teach in Sanskrit. So it will be easier for you if you go to this one. And that was Tapovan Swami, and Chinmayanji was sent to Tapovan Swami to learn. So Tapovan Swami taught him Vedanta, but Shivanandaji was his guru. I think his sannyas guru also was Shivanandaji. Kiran says, is it correct to say that upadhi seems to be a problem as long as there is an ego that associates itself with upadhi? There is no ego, then one can remain as witness of the upadhi. Or more precisely, as long as there is ignorance about one's own real nature. Because I do not know that I am the witness consciousness, so I identify myself with the ego. Who am I? I am this ego. That's all I am. It's obvious to me. And then immediately I get identified with the mind and body, because the ego is part of the mind, and the mind is inextricably connected to the body. So immediately I get stuck to the mind and body and I identify with it. And the upadhi takes full hold on me. Whereas if I realize myself, ignorance about my nature is gone, and I realize myself as witness consciousness, then even the ego is an object. Then, like Shankaracharya, I can say, Mano buddhankara chittani naham. Ahankara naham. I am not the ego. I can say that confidently. Then all of these will seem like the play of upadhis. So the problem is ego certainly, but deeper problem is ignorance of not knowing that I am not the ego. I am Sakshi, I am witness consciousness. That also Shankaracharya will challenge now. When you're saying yam consciousness, that's also a relative term. It's used in Vyavaharik. As long as you're doing the analysis, it's a useful term. But that's also not the ultimate nature of the Atman. How can Amira asks, okay, don't keep on adding any more questions. Amira asks, how can one be blissful amidst suffering and troubling situations when they arise? Even though this is just an appearance, does it take time to live by this truth? Does it take time to live by this truth through nididhyasana? Yes. In the midst of troubles and suffering, suffering and troubles will come for everybody. Trouble is not optional, but suffering is optional. Trouble comes by our past karma, but suffering comes due to our ignorance. Our ignorance attaching us to the upadhis, body, mind, therefore we suffer. I think I am this person, and therefore everything, all the troubles, I am suffering. Witness consciousness does not suffer. One way of making it through troubles and suffering is to be focused on one's spiritual life. If my joy and my peace, my bliss, who was that? Ramdas, I think he said, follow your bliss. If my bliss comes from my spiritual life, that means from my devotion to my Ishta Devata, from my repetition of the mantra, from my selfless service to all around, from my meditation, from my self-knowledge, if that is the source of my peace, of my joy, but that is available to me no matter what the troubles. If the source of my joy and peace are the pleasures of the world, when things are going well, I'm enjoying it while things are going well, then I'll be in trouble when the things are not going well. Where is my enjoyment coming from? Where is my enjoyment coming from? Is my enjoyment coming from my spiritual practice, or is my enjoyment coming from things are going well for me? Things are going the way I want them to. It's nice if things go the way I want them to, but if I'm dependent on the things going the way I want them to, then when troubles come, I will suffer. But if my joy comes from, suppose you're a Krishna Bhakta, my joy comes from the repetition of the name of Krishna, my Ishta Devata. That's the source of my joy. But that's available to you in the middle of troubles also. That Kabir Das is saying is there. दुख में सुमिरे सब, सुख में सुमिरे न कोई, जो दुख में सुमिरे उसको दुख, उसको जो सुख में सुमिरे उसको दुख काहे को होए. So when sorrow comes, everybody rushes to God, and nobody thinks about God when things are going well. But when things are going well, if you think about God, where will be sorrow for such a person? What does that mean? If you think a little closely, it doesn't make much sense. But there is a deeper message there. When things are going well, I derive my joy, my satisfaction from my love of God, not because things are going well. That is the meaning of thinking about God when things are going well, dwelling on God when things are going well. If I do that, then when troubles come, which will inevitably come for anybody, spiritual, non-spiritual, troubles will come, then I continue to derive my joy by thinking about God. Kabir Das say, usko dukh kahe ko hai? Where will sorrow be for such a person? He does not mean troubles will not come for such a person. Troubles will come for such a person. But sorrow, suffering will not come for such a person. When things are good, no troubles, all is going well, still my joy is from God, from my mantra, from my devotional service to God, from my exercise of meditation, from my investigation into self-knowledge, that is where my happiness lies. When troubles come, they will come. My happiness, source of happiness is still there. So the troubles will not be converted into suffering. So yes, Amira, Nididhyasana, but not just Nididhyasana by itself is difficult. So Nididhyasana, repetition of the mantra, then loving service to God, bhajan, and karma yoga, so, a general attitude of helpfulness, of service to everybody else. All these will stand you in good stead in the middle of trouble. Sangeeta, just like even the nicest spiritual vision is not to be confused with enlightenment. Could you kindly comment on this? Objectless experience. A term I see thrown around by a lot of meditators. First of all, is possible like an experience ever possible without some object of some sort? And if yes, can that be enlightenment? No, not really. Objectless experience is possible in the sense I am the witness of the absence of all objects. Deep sleep is an objectless experience. But deep meditation also can be an objectless experience. But in that sense, it comes and goes and can give you some peace. Deep sleep gives you peace. It's a tamasic kind of peace. Deep meditation gives you peace. That's a sattvic kind of peace. But they all are subject to coming and going, and they may not actually lead to enlightenment. But a deeper meaning of objectless experience could be consciousness itself. Consciousness itself can be called objectless experience, but it's not experience the way this teacher is asking the question. When the teacher says, have you experienced Brahman? He means in the way we ordinarily experience objects. Have you experienced Brahman like that? Did you have some mystical experience? Did you have some internal spiritual experience? Did you have some vision? You think you have realized Brahman like that? Then he denies that. But consciousness itself is called the very essence of experience. Anubhava matra param brahma. The very essence of experience is consciousness. Later on, the student will say full-blown real enlightenment. Real enlightenment is all experience. Then all experience will reveal Brahman to you. Pratibodha viditam matam. That's why this Upanishad is so dramatic. Right now, where the discussion is going, we'll get the impression that this Brahman is becoming more and more inaccessible, more and more abstract. So if I have some inner experience, that's not Brahman, that's an inferior form of Brahman. If I even have the vision of some Devata, that's also an inferior form of Brahman. The real Brahman in its real nature, no form, no possibility of objective experience, seems more and more abstract and difficult of access and it's like disappearing like vapor. Whereas very soon, the same student will say full-blown enlightenment is in every experience Brahman is revealed. It is an expansive, it's maximal idea of Brahman, not minimal, maximal idea of Brahman. For the enlightened person with eyes open, with eyes closed, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, or sitting in meditation and withdrawing, same light shines all the time. Light I'm using in quote unquote as that one reality. So such a beautiful Upanishad. Every moment it seems to take you this way, but it reveals you're going the other way. It's full of twists and turns. Sonali says, so seeing the world as an upadhi involves deconstructing the independent existence of the world and seeing it as appearances, experiences of in Brahman, let us say, which is the only independent reality. Yes. In fact, the only reality it is. And then further, dissolve the upadhi back into Brahman, to just instead of saying as appearances in Brahman, Brahman alone exists. Brahman alone exists. Yes, it appears in those forms, no problem. Ricarchus says that Joseph Campbell said, follow your bliss. Ramdas may have quoted him, yes. Jahnavi says, Dukh mein sumire sab kare, sumiran sab kare, sukh mein kare na koe, dukh mein jo dukh mein sumiran kare, usse, no, it should be jo sukh mein sumiran kare, usse dukh kahe ko hoye. Yes. So this is the deeper, inner deeper meaning. Otherwise, a doubt may arise. So in the when things are going well for me, if I remember God, if I dwell in God, no sorrow will come to me. No, sorrow will come to you. Trouble will come to you. Troubles will come to you. But the dukkha will not come from that. Internally, you will be fine. Yes, Janavi has corrected it. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu.